right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lewis XC crossover. So excited for you all to join us today. Lewis XC crossover, one of the single biggest D2 cross-country meets in the nation. We have 1,100 athletes here today between the invite races, the open races. Here's what we're going to be doing today in terms of the schedule. We've got the men's invite race happening at 9:45, so we got about 15 minutes here, all this in Central Time. Women's race, 6K, that'll be happening at 10:30. And then, of course, the women's open race at 11:15, and the men's open race here at noon. The Stride Report, myself, my name is Garrett Zatlin. I will be commentating on today's races. We'll be commentating on the men's and women's invite races. We will not have commentary for the open races, but we will have that streamed. And of course, you can go find the invite races on our YouTube page at the completion of the meet. We'll also have a handful of post-race video interviews as well with some of the top athletes. Again, about 1,100 athletes here today. We have approximately 16 teams that are ranked, nationally ranked, or receiving votes that are going to be in the men's field, and about 12 women's teams that are nationally ranked or receiving votes in the coaches poll. Actually, we have 3 of the top 5 women's teams here today. This will have a massive implication on the national qualifying criteria here for who will advance to this year's national meet, the at-large bid, and the selection process. A lot of that can be determined by how the results of this meet play out. Last year's men's team, men's winner, Colorado Mines, they are back. They are back, looking a bit different though. They're missing a handful of individuals from last year's team, although they will likely be favored here today to take home this win. They, of course, however, will not be without competition. The host, Lewis Flyers, the men, seem to have a very strong team this year. Fort Lewis, the Skyhawks, will be competitive this year. Western Washington, the Vikings. Colorado Christian. Of course, at the time that the preview that we wrote on our site, stridereport.com, was out, Colorado Christian does appear that they're missing 1 or 2 key names, so something to potentially monitor. Also going to be an interesting day for Colorado Christian to see how new coach Evan Verbal is going to be positioning his team for an exciting postseason run. But on the team side, it is Colorado Mines who will be favored today on the men's side, and we'll get on the women's side shortly. On the individual side, you're looking at a handful of different names. It depends on how deep you want to look into this, but the 2 individual favorites on the men's side today, likely Matthew Storer of Colorado Christian. He was last year's Lewis XC crossover individual champion. And battling him for the title will be Loic Scamperin of Colorado Mines. Had a fantastic year on the track this past year. Is a top individual consistently on the grass, and he has been a stalwart at the Division II scene. He was 8th at last year's national meet. Storer was 3rd. Ryan Hartman, the Augustana standout, has been nationally competitive since day one, since coming into the collegiate scene. He was 9th last year. He will also play a role in the individual battle. Be sure to look out for Findley's Noah Fisher. Very reliable, great low stick, consistent, is not afraid to put himself in the mix. He will be the underdog to win, but he will certainly be a favorite for a top 5 finish. Other names to watch: Paul Knight, Colorado Mines. Logan Bogovich, Colorado Mines. Kevin McDermott of Western Washington. For Colorado Mines, the men's side on the team This is going to be a very important race for them as they try to position themselves to potentially redeem a second place finish at last year's national meet, a fantastic result, but fell a little short of the Wingate men. The Wingate men looking incredibly strong this year after a fantastic Paul Short performance. Colorado Mines going to try to position themselves to be competitive with them yet again. And this will be an excellent, excellent test. Lewis, Fort Lewis in Western Washington, and Colorado Christian, all teams that are contenders for the top 10 or in the top 10, and they will be teams to watch. Lewis, great depth. Fort Lewis, a very up-and-coming program. Western Washington, a lot of good mix of depth and lead scorers and veterans. Colorado Christian, typically a very top-heavy lineup. Again, I'm not sure if they'll have their entire lineup today. Apparently one or two key names that might be missing. Lewis, a very deep team, complete team, much more experienced this year. They seem to have a little bit more of a scoring edge compared to last year. This is a different team that will still be very competitive, and of course they will be on their home course. On the women's side, let's talk about the women here. It's going to be interesting depending on who you think might win here. So there's a handful of teams that are in contention to take home gold today. The initial favorites, Grand Valley State, will be the headline program as we go into today's race on the women's side. They are, however, missing Lauren Kiley, at least at the time of the release of entries, as well as, I believe, Abby Vandercourt as well. So without a handful of key names, Grand Valley State, we're going to be seeing how they will handle a field that will be very competitive. Handful of top nationally ranked teams. Augustana Vikings, great team last year, top 10 at the national meet. Aubrey Surridge, the All-American from last fall. She'll be attempting to lead her team to a potential victory here today. A team that has grown quite a bit, had a very strong Roy Griak performance earlier this fall. Deep team, complete team. Very few gaps, very few weaknesses in that lineup. They very much have a chance to take home that win today, especially with Grand Valley State not quite having all of their pieces. And Colorado Mines, the women, that you lost a large handful of top individuals from last year's team, last year's podium team, and yet we still feel that there is a lot of great scoring potential, a lot of great low stick potential spread throughout that squad. The main name to watch on Colorado Mines, Jenna Ramsey Rutledge. She's a veteran, consistent, often fares well at these meets. Great strongman, Margot Bassert, Lexi Herr. Key individuals to watch there on Colorado Mines. Other key teams to watch in the women's team race here. You have Lewis, the host Lewis Flyers. Sneaky good team as well. They've only gotten better, return a lot of their women. Hannah Smirka going to be a key individual to watch there. Western Washington, you want to talk about a team with depth. Historically, that is what they have, although it is going to be, I believe, Isla Davis and Ashley Reek. Can be two great lead scorers for this team. We'll see how impactful they can be in that scoring potency aspect of the team standings. Colorado Christian, Alaska Fairbanks, Biola, Winona State. Winona State, how will they fare now? Losing, two key individuals from last year's team being Kaylee Byer, Lindsey Cunningham, the latter now at Wisconsin as a graduate transfer. Got about 5 minutes here until the men kick off, the men's invite race here at the Lewis XC crossover. Again, for those of you who just joined us, we will have the men's race at 9:45. That's coming up in 5 minutes here. women's race will be kicking off at 10:30 all this Central Time. Women's open race will then be at 11:15, and men's open race at noon. Again, we have 1,100. Yes, 1100, 1,100 athletes in attendance today. And of course, many more spectators. 16 men's teams are in this field that are either nationally ranked or receiving votes in the national polls. There's Alaska Anchorage, the Seawolves. Recently, they had Cole Nash as their lead talent. He is now at Notre Dame as a graduate student. On women's side, 12 teams that are in the national rankings or receiving votes. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to thestridereport.com and subscribe to our YouTube page, The Stride Report. That is TheStride Report. Cover all Division 1, 2, 3, a little bit of NAIA, some high school recruiting, the most in-depth cross-country, track and field, distance running coverage that you will find at the collegiate level. And thank you all for joining us for our very first stream. We're incredibly excited to have this opportunity today. I want to thank Coach James Kearney here at Lewis. He's been a fantastic advocate for this sport, has put on one of the single greatest cross-country meets of the entire country. This year's version of Lewis XC Crossover feels a lot like the D2 version of Nutty Comb, often held at Madison, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin. This will be the big test for a lot of teams, and it will determine which teams are heading to the national meet and which teams will need a little bit more at their conference meet in an effort to secure some at-large bids later this season. There's the start line. To your right, you can see the Augustana men in those yellow singlets. Michigan Tech on the left there, to the left of Augustana, I should say. Minnesota Duluth, I believe that is to their left, and then Biola in those red singlets. We are a minute from kicking off the Lewis XC Crossover here in Romeoville, Illinois. Again, thank you all for joining us here today. Also want to thank John Kilpatrick, Lewis University AV Director, and his team. Fantastic setup for us, and we sincerely appreciate him. Thank you, John. And we should be kicking off here soon. Again, teams to watch on the men's race here. Colorado Mines, Lewis, Fort Lewis, Western Washington, Colorado Christian, among many others. And I'm sure there'll be another team or two, that we're not expecting. We're about to get underway here. It is a straight shot through the chute before wrapping around the fields. And here is the sounding whistle. And they're off here at the Lewis XC Crossover 2024. Presented by the Stride Report here, and we are so thrilled and so excited to be able to do this for you all today. They'll come up this hill right here. It looks like Colorado Mines taking the edge there, getting out very aggressive, very quick. You see a good portion of their squad on that inside portion. That is Findlay individual up there. I want to say that's Noah Fisher, still unsure quite yet. Colorado Mines continuing to have a significant presence there. Excuse me, that was not Noah Fisher, that was Jordan Foster, another strong Findlay individual. Looks like that is Colorado Mines here in the lead. A little bit challenging to make out who that may be. There we are. You can see Ryan Hartman in the yellow singlet in the back there. And here they are coming around that curve. That is Storer there of the Cougars. He is in the lead, able to make that out a little bit easier now. Lewis having a presence up top as well. That is Kevin McDermott, you can also see, of Western Washington in that blue singlet. Going around the curve there. Ryan Hartman, been a key name in Division II for quite some time. Again, 9th at last year's national meet. Right next to him, Matthew Storer, 3rd. Kevin McDermott in that blue had a fantastic season on the track earlier this year. It was great in the 5K. Showed a lot of great value all around. McDermott 12th at last year's national meet. I'm sorry, excuse me, 12th at last year's Lewis XC Crossover. We're getting near that first mile. Coming up in the next 30, 40 seconds here. believe that's Charlie Worth of Lewis. Storer trying to create some space there at the front. Unsure what he was trying to do. Maybe take a look at that pack. We should note that there is a possibility that we will briefly have this stream have a gap due to the distance of our equipment here. About 5:30 into the race now, and it is still the main contenders. I think that's Logan Bokovic, if I'm seeing this correctly. He is up there. Minnesota Duluth, I believe. Is that? It looks like that is Minnesota Duluth, possibly, with a lead contender as well. This is going to be an interesting aspect of the race. Is a lot of this is top guys trying to play off of each other, trying to see who is going to make a move first. It's a little bit of a cat and mouse game. It will be interesting to see what happens. I would imagine someone like Storer or someone like Colorado Mines from one of those from that team, look for them to potentially make a move. I believe that's from in the white singlet. That might be Elijah Bergman, excuse me. Through the first split, we have Colorado Mines taking the lead, 44 points, with Western Washington 63, Lewis in third at 67, Biola in fourth at 111, and Colorado Christian 130, Augustana 6 at 149. The Lewis men being a little bit more aggressive than I thought they would be, which I like that a lot. It's your home course, trying to take advantage of knowing that, and the familiarity certainly helps. They're a lot more experienced than they were last year. But they will have to fend off a handful of top men. That first split was Evan Horgan of Lewis, Elijah Bergman was racing unattached, Charlie Worth, Lewis, Ryan Hartman fourth, and it's Cooper Sorson, of Ferris State. That is Evan Horgan here. Being the aggressor here today, Ryan Hartman in that yellow, staying right on him on that right side in the blue singlet. You can see Kevin McDermott also being the aggressor. Look at Lewis on the left side there, not afraid to be aggressive. Coming around the curve here. Horgan continuing to hit the gas and starting to create some separation. This is not expected. Horgan, a strong individual. We knew he was talented. Although this certainly looks like he's positioning himself to make a statement. Coming through the strip of spectators here. This is a true cross-country course. Outstanding conditions today. You're looking at 60s, decent breeze, a little cool, but certainly great cross-country weather. The course conditions are excellent. Good firm footing. Back to the lead here, the lead group. That is, again, still Evan Horgan. And Ryan Hartman right on him. Along with, I believe that's Matthew Storer, last year's champion of Lewis XC crossover. Kevin McDermott also in contention there. I will say, I did not see Skomperin in the live results. As you can see our tri-screen there. Leaders on the left. Pax on the right. And it is still Evan Horgan. Ryan Hartman being the one to go with him along with Storer. They're now creating some separation. And this is an interesting development. We wouldn't have expected this race to open up as early as it has right now in terms of getting separation from the pack, but you're beginning to see that happen, and a lot of that is because Evan Horgan here is the one who's being the aggressor. Hartman, however, giving him no room for error, and Matthew Storer sticking there as well. There's the chase pack. Coming up now, almost 13 minutes here into this race. Back to the leaders here, still the same. And it is still that same three. It is Horgan. It is Hartman. It is Storer. Few individuals beginning to move up from behind. Handful of them seemingly being Colorado Mines. Second loop around here. The pursuers of that lead group not quite fading just yet. Beginning to slowly come back in contact, it seems. Still some work to do. Now looks like that is Hartman. Who's attempting to push a bit. Coming around that bend. It's the Colorado Mines men who are beginning to pursue and catch that front pack. Very smart and conservative race so far by the Mines men, being patient. Bergman, I believe that's Bergman, in that white singlet, still in the mix. Trying to get a read on those Colorado Mines runners. I believe one of those Mines runners is Alberto Campa. Had a great year on the track. Mile-centric runner who can also move up in distance. Should be very, very high on him this fall. Great, great talent. Could be a key name who contends for an All-American honor later this fall. Horgan now beginning to have to battle a little bit more for his position, while it's Hartman continuing to hold that lead, and Matthew Storer of Colorado Christian right behind him, just been patiently sitting behind whoever is in that lead, reacting appropriately. Storer on the right, Hartman in the yellow. I believe that's Bergman on the left in the white singlet. Horgan in the red, still in that lead pack, while Kevin McDermott in the blue, Alberto Campa in the mix as well. Still working on some splits here. Here we go. At 17 minutes in, it is Hartman, and it looks like that is Ethan Grolnick of Colorado Mines who is in that conversation as well. Ethan Grolnick of Colorado Mines, that is seemingly who is in that lead group. That would be a huge breakout race if he's able to maintain. At least that's based on what the live results have here for us. Elliot Dotson of Anderson, he's in that pack. Or at least I should say he's a little bit further behind, but he's leading the chase pack. But now it's Hartman. Hartman beginning, or at least trying to get some separation here. You can begin to see that lead group beginning to space out a little bit more and a little bit more. Ethan Grolnick of Colorado Mines. This would be a substantial breakout performance if he's able to hang. Seeing him in third, he's swinging along the back there, but it's Hartman now. You can see him pumping his arms. He's trying to get some separation here from Storer. Storer not relenting, not letting him go quite yet, but Hartman is being the aggressor here. Evan Horgan, you can see, still holding his own in the back. I mean, if Horgan's able to hold that position, this will still be a significant statement race for him. I love the aggression that he showed, even if he's not quite at that lead group yet. Fantastic move by him. Through that split previously, those team scores coming in, it's Colorado Mines at 29, Western Washington 69, Colorado Christian 81, and Lewis 89, Biola 109. Again, Mines at 1, Western Washington 2nd, Colorado Christian 3rd, Lewis 4th, Biola 5th. Hartman now, Storer up behind him. Attempting to get some separation here. It is now a two-man race, it seems. Hartman and Storer are battling it out. Ethan Grolnick, still trying his best to hang tight in third. In an awkward position there between that lead group and well ahead of that chase pack. Hartman, very dangerous in terms of his speed, his turnover. He likely wants a short kick, although he is being the aggressor here, which is not to say he doesn't have great aerobic strength, but Storer, likely the one who I thought would be the aggressor here. He might want a final surge or a final move that is a little bit further out. So we'll see if they match that kind of racing style as we approach the latter moments of this race here. We are at 20:22 on the clock. Again, Colorado Mines currently securing a comfortable lead, but that second, third, fourth spot there between Western Washington, Colorado, Christian, and Lewis beginning to get really tight, really interesting. That could swing very easily by the very end of this race as we approach the final moments here. But it is still Hartman and Storer. Storer now, it seems, coming up on Hartman's shoulder. And yes, it does look like that's what's going to happen. Storer is going to try to make a push from a little bit further out, trying to attempt to use that strength-based skill set of his. And now Storer is the one pushing the pace. This is a very curvy part of the course. This is where momentum can be chopped up a little bit. Trying to react and attacking this portion of the course is a smart move. I like this by Storer, but now it's Hartman. Hartman going right back to the lead. Hartman trying to make a push. Hartman trying to get some separation. An excellent response from Hartman. Grolnick still back in third, and that's Bergman back in fourth, I believe. Around the curve, here they come, and it's Hartman who is beginning to open up a gap here. This would be an interesting result here. Storer, someone who we thought could potentially be an individual national title contender this fall. Hartman, certainly a favorite for the top 10 All-American honor. Storer was favored, but Hartman certainly has had a chance, and he has certainly laid open a huge, significant gap, or at least a huge point at this point. Hartman really asserting himself, looking to close it out now, establish the gap, and put this away. Seems that we have some spectators here on the course. On this side, here they come. We're at the final stretch, and it's going to be Hartman all the way. What an impressive final K here. Storer not giving ground, but this is going to be the Ryan Hartman show. He has opened up a very solid 40-meter gap. Very impressive run by him. I see Ethan Grolnick now coming through. Bergman, however, trying to close that gap on him. Evan Horgan here in fifth, and I believe that's Cabet of Washburn and Felix Perrier, the next few guys here. Colorado Mines and Kevin McDermott there. But it is still Ryan Hartman as he comes through, the veteran of Augustana, the Vikings. Ryan Hartman is going to be your Lewis XC Crossover champion in 2024. Matthew Storer, a commendable race for him. Outstanding effort. Ethan Grolnick with a massive race. Bergman now in fifth, and Evan Horgan. What a fantastic race from him. The aggressor, he opened up this race. Outstanding result. That is Cabet of Washburn. That's Mines and Felix Perrier there of Azusa Pacific. Kevin McDermott now coming across, and I believe that's Noah Fisher of Findlay. Elliot Dotson there of Anderson. Now this is where things get interesting. You're seeing a lot of Colorado Mines. This is likely going to be a Colorado Mines win, but Lewis having a large handful of individuals coming across the line. I've seen Western Washington and Biola have a handful of individuals crossing the line as well. We're still waiting for these live results to update. It will likely be Mines taking home this win, and doing so with what appears to be a fairly limited lineup. What an outstanding race. Very fun, very entertaining. Moves were made, responses made. You love the aggression from standout individuals. You love the emergence of breakout names. Course looks outstanding today. Times very solid. Still waiting on those splits. We are working to calculate them. But that was Ryan Hartman. Fantastic run by him. We'll see if we can potentially get him to join us a little bit later. But it was Colorado Mines that will likely be taking home the win today. Still waiting on those live results to update. So what do we do from here? Well, Colorado Mines did not run what appears to be their full lineup. But Ethan Grolnick emerging as that low stick. Third place in this field is outstanding. Now the question becomes, what will we see from Colorado Mines throughout the rest of the postseason as they position themselves to face off yet again with Wingate, a team that has truthfully looked borderline unstoppable. Although Mines, with the recent resurgence of a handful of impressive individuals in this race, again, despite not fielding what appears to be no Loic Comparin. Not sure if there were a handful of other individuals who potentially may be missing. The lineup today for Mines, it looks like, and this is not in any particular order, still waiting for the final results to come in, but at the midway split, it looks like we had a Ethan Grolnick there, Jeremiah Vale, Braden Struess, Alberto Campa, Matthew Metler, Andres O'Malley, and Chandler Wilburn. So a clear, not Mines' top lineup, but still likely good enough, I imagine, to get that win as we await the final results and the splits here. I just shot a text. I'll see if we can get Hartman, potentially over here later in the stream, to chat about his race, his big win here at the Lewis XC crossover. Top 3, Ryan Hartman of Augustana. Matthew Storer of Colorado Christian. And I believe that was Ethan Grolnick in 3rd of Colorado Mines. A fantastic first race here. Men's invite field featured a lot of great runs, established veterans, breakout performances. The women's race, that will be next, coming up in roughly 14 minutes here. And if you haven't already, go check out thestridereport.com. Thestridereport.com. As well as subscribe to our YouTube page. You can catch all of our post-race interviews. We'll also have this entire race of the Lewis XC crossover up at the completion. Also, a lot of our podcasts there as well. Blue Oval Podcast, you can find that on Apple, Spotify, and of course YouTube. I'm being told by one of our individuals on the ground here, Andrew LeMay. We also have Griffin Forberg doing some photos for us today. Again, Griffin Forberg doing photos, and Andrew LeMay with some post-race interviews that will be available on our YouTube page. Still waiting for those team results to come in. Still working on finalizing that. But it sounds like we might be able to snag Hartman for a quick chat. Women's race going off here in about 11 minutes. While we await the start of the women's race and potentially a chat with Hartman, talk a little bit about the women's field here. The main teams to watch: Grand Valley State, Colorado Mines, Lewis, and Augustana. Colorado Mines, the narrative there, losing a handful of top individuals from last year's team, however, still with a handful of great women, experienced women, proven women on this team. They will absolutely have a shot to win this race. Augustana women, however, on the come-up, great season last year, established themselves with great depth, and now they have further proven themselves so far this fall. They will look to secure the win with a complete top 5. Well, we're going to just stop the stream real quick. Don't worry, we will be back for the women's race. That'll be up soon, but we're going to start a separate stream so that we can record that women's race. So until then, the next 5 minutes, I'll be back. Thank you.